I'll save it.
Just go ahead, man. Just keep saving it.
I'll save it.
All right, perfect.
All you, TJ. All you.
All me. Well, if you're hearing this banter, this little bit of back and forth, then you're in the right place, because welcome back to another episode of the Stick to Ole Miss podcast. I'm your host, TJ Oxley, joined by my friend. He's back. Welcome back, buddy. Caleb Salers. And this one's gonna be a little bit different. We're talking all ladies, because guess what, Coach Joe? They're dancing, and they're dancing all the way to the Sweet 16.
It's so sweet.
Going all the way out to Stanford and just handling Gonzaga completely. 71-48 win there, then picking up the win against Stanford, number 1 seed. First time since Ole Miss is in the Sweet 16 since 2007. And with the win, Ole Miss beats Stanford 54-49. Just absolutely incredible day for the program, for where they are, where they've been. Caleb, go ahead. You watched the game. I watched the game. What did you see?
So, the Gonzaga game, we didn't get to watch a lot of that, but that's not the game we're talking about. We're talking about the Stanford game and the resilience of the Rebels. What I saw, okay, so first of all, Madison Scott, Angel Baker, they did their thing. Or they're going to do their thing. They did their thing. One thing that really stuck out to me, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Snudda Collins, because she had her shot blocked so many times, but never lost confidence. Never stopped shooting, never stopped facilitating, never stopped going to the basket. Even when she knew that she was probably going to get blocked, she still took it to the basket, the confidence. And then the whole team, it was contagious. The whole team played off of that. Thompson hit a couple of very crucial threes at 9 points in the first half, gave the Rebels some sparks to where it wasn't just Madison Scott. It wasn't just Angel Baker. It wasn't just the two glue pieces holding everything together. And I'm telling you, I tweeted this out, is that one thing that Coach Yo has done is she's gotten the team just to buy in. I mean, their level of confidence is second to none. Like I mentioned with Snudda Collins having shot after shot after shot blocked, it didn't stop her from shooting. It didn't stop her from trying. It didn't stop her from just being explosive. And that comes from confidence. That comes from having a coach that believes in you and a coach that you believe in. And you just see them feeding off of each other. Even when Stanford kind of made a late push and got back in it, tied it up at the end of the game, the team wasn't scared. They were ready to answer the call, and they fought right back. So, no, it was good to see not only Ole Miss just pop Stanford in the mouth, but kind of say, hey, you may be a number 1 seed, but you're not the best team on this court.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back, it's the buy-in that you talk about is 100% real. I'm no one's denying that. What I do want to say is if you look back, this is not the same team that took the court in November.
No.
It's not the same team that took the court in December.
Mm-mm.
It's not the same team that took the court in January. And that's where I think this Ole Miss team is just incredibly scary.
Yeah.
Because and I tweeted this out a while ago. I said, if Ole Miss, this is when the bracketology came out, they were predicted to be a 7 seed. Mm-hmm. Well, when you do the bracketology, it's based on your entire results from start to finish. And I said, Ole Miss is going to be like one hell of a 7 seed, because they're a team that people do not want to face because of how well they've progressed over the year. And I remember having conversations with people, and this was around the time when they were about to play LSU and they were about to play South Carolina, which actually was probably, if you think about it, like a pretty pivotal part of their season. They kind of like were sitting around like 4th in the conference, but there was a couple teams lingering around, and they ended up losing both of those games. But it's not the fact that they lost. It's how they lost and how they played in that loss.
Mm-hmm.
They lose to LSU on the road, but they put up one incredible fight. And then they turn around and 2 days later and go pound for pound with the number 1 team in the nation, and had a chance to win that game with less than a minute left. They were up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay that you didn't. You went to overtime. You fought your ass off, and that's fantastic. And you did it in front of 6,000 Ole Miss fans.
Yep.
But you proved to everybody in the gym that day, anybody who watched, any Ole Miss supporter, that this team was different. It wasn't about getting to the same level as a South Carolina, as an LSU, as some of these elite, like blue blood programs of women's basketball. You were proving you were there with them.
Yeah.
And that's when it changed. And I remember saying, like, okay, but like for them to take the next step after that, they would have to win one of these games. Well, let's fast forward a little bit. And now we're in the tournament, and they go out west. They go and they play Gonzaga. Gonzaga, one of the best 3-point shooting teams in all of women's basketball. And Ole Miss, really, their defense, and the motto, we defend. See, we got that.
We defend.
They really made life just difficult for that Gonzaga offense.
That's an understatement.
Well, and I say this because they shoot like 42% or whatever the number is, But it's the fact that they were just 1 for 17, which is an incredible 5.9%. But it's the fact that they didn't even take as many threes. Ole Miss took more threes, and Ole Miss is not what I consider the best three-point shooting team, or even in the top quadrant of that.
No.
But it's the fact that Ole Miss went into this game and really dictated what Gonzaga was going to do and set the tone early. And I think that just kind of carried over when we get into this Stanford game. Now, granted, Stanford is an incredibly different opponent than playing Gonzaga. Gonzaga has a very perimeter-based offense where Stanford likes to go inside to their, pretty much their All-American, forward down low in Cameron Brink. So for Ole Miss, it was about changing what they could do and still being able to dictate the game from going from, let's say this, in the Gonzaga game, I noticed the versatility on defense, the amount of switching they did and their ability to kind of throw them off that way because it was tougher for the motion offense of Gonzaga to work.
Yeah.
But against Stanford, you can't necessarily do that because you're creating mismatches. Against Gonzaga, you had Angel Baker, holding her own in the post defense against Gonzaga's bigs. You're not going to be able to do that against Stanford, especially with Stanford having multiple girls, well over the 6 foot mark. So for them to be able to go in and still dictate what happens and kind of dominated the game, it shows really how scary defensively they can be. And that's something that's going to translate as they go on and head on to Seattle and play Louisville.
Well, you're controlling defensively. It's kind of like ball control. You're controlling where the ball goes, where you allow the ball to go, not letting down low, not letting them just get every shot they wanted. And you saw times where up top, Stanford would try to force something down low, and Ole Miss is just waiting on the pass. Ole Miss had 3 or 4 steals at least where they're just waiting on the ball because they're dictating where it goes. Offensively, they didn't let Stanford run their offense. They didn't let them run their sets. Never let them once get comfortable. Yeah, Kim Brink had a good game. I mean, she had a million blocks, and she had some points down low, but she was never comfortable during the game. Never once comfortable. Never just had an easy put in. No, I mean, Ole Miss was controlling the flow of offense, controlling the flow of where the ball would be, making sure it didn't end up in her hands down low.
Yeah.
But more so than that, attacking the ball handlers and just discomfort. I remember one of the announcers was saying, she said, all practice, all I heard Coach Yo saying was, make them uncomfortable, make them uncomfortable, make them uncomfortable. And that's exactly what they did. Stanford played a full game of discomfort, and it showed.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you look at it, Stanford was a team that really kind of predicated on 2 very important players, and that's Haley Jones and Cameron Brink.
Yep.
Haley Jones was 7 of 19 from the field. Cameron Brink was 5 of 13 from the field.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to give credit where credit's due. They are 2 very, very, very good players.
Yeah.
Very skilled, and I mean, top of the line in women's college basketball. But for Ole Miss, it was just they just found a way to make things difficult for them to the point where it was tough for them to get that kind of stuff. Now, Cameron Brink, she finished with 20 points and I think 13 rebounds or something like that. Let me do a quick little check.
How many
20 points, 13 rebounds, and 7 blocks.
Yeah.
That's an incredible stat line.
She almost had a triple-double.
Wild. But you could still tell if you watched the game that the frustration that was on her face and the struggle that Stanford was trying to do against this Ole Miss defense. But it's just one of those things when you go back and you look at it, just some base numbers can kind of just tell you the story of the game. Stanford turned the ball over, had a turnover percentage of 25.1. Ole Miss had a 16.5. That's crazy.
10% differential.
Yeah. But not only this, and this is where I kind of got into it, is Ole Miss did a really good job guarding the perimeter, but Stanford being a bigger team, a better rebounding team than what Gonzaga would have been. The offensive rebounding percentage for Ole Miss was 41%.
Mm-hmm.
They dominated. I mean, that's absolutely insane. That's crazy level numbers. And for them to go out there and play this game against Stanford and win the rebounding battle and forcing more turnovers, it really swung the game in their favor early on. And what they did is they did the classic kind of upset maneuver. You get up early and you kind of just metaphorically kind of give them a jab to the mouth. Mm-hmm. And then they got to recover. And Stanford did. Let's give them a little bit of credit there. They
got back in the game, had the shot to win the game.
Yeah. But I think that also, is also could be a pro point for Ole Miss big time, because it kind of shows the resiliency for them to kind of get in the situation. How many times do you see watching March Madness where a team, gets up a little bit and they kind of linger through into halftime? They got a lead. They're feeling good. Second half comes around, no matter how much they are up. And then all of a sudden the other team comes storming back. And then once the game gets tied, it's like, okay, well, there's, the morale is lost.
You saw it with Xavier first round. They went on a 24-6 run to win the game. I mean,
yeah.
You think you're like, yeah, we're about to beat this team. And the next thing you know, the Avalanche falls. Ole Miss withstood the Avalanche.
Yes.
Go ahead.
They withstood the Avalanche. They withstood the Avalanche on their opponent's home court, which is something I really got to think, like, for them to go out there and do it in front of their fans, in front of their crowd. It just shows this, and we're all circling back. We're going right back to the beginning. It shows the level of buy-in that they have into Coach Yo and feeding off of her energy, playing with the passion that she shows while she's coaching. And you could tell, like in the post-game press conferences, the amount of emotion that Coach Yo had, what it meant to her, what it meant for her players, for what it meant for Ole Miss to be in this situation.
No, I completely agree. I didn't know you were ready for me. No.
Ladies and gentlemen, I left him speechless.
I
left my guy absolutely speechless.
Always leave me speechless, TJ. Always leave me speechless. No, I mean, it was evident. I mean, everything they did, to the point where withstanding the Avalanche is one thing, but finding a way to grind out, win, and then separate at the end too. It was one of those like, all right, you are the 1 seed. You are big and bad. You're coming back. You're starting to kind of, in a way, try to take control of this game. We're going to take it right back from you. We're going to get a steal at the end of the game, go up, get fouled, and then extend the lead again. And Ole Miss just didn't play scared. I mean, you saw the Avalanche was coming. We were all like, oh, no, here it comes. The team didn't have that, oh, no, here it comes attitude. It's like, okay, yeah, they're hitting a couple of shots, but we're going to go hit some more shots. We're going to hit free throws, win this thing, and seal it. Go ahead.
A couple really, really big turnovers down the stretch there.
Mm-hmm.
Really a couple of big steals by Ole Miss, especially on those kind of like that sideline out of bounds play. And the one where they tried to do the weak side lob over to Brink and get stolen off, kind of end it necessarily. I mean, those are two very big defensive stands for Ole Miss, something that I think is, huge for them going forward, because like you said, withstanding that Avalanche, going to build upon it and being able to kind of come out on the other side.
With their crowd screaming at you, getting loud, I mean, shaking that arena, and you just punch them right back and say, okay, yeah, you punched me. But we never lost the lead. That was the big thing. Ole Miss never lost the lead. Even when Stanford tied it, the Rebels never lost the lead. Stanford never got up. Stanford never had the advantage at any point in the game. No matter how much they came back, the best they did, the best they could do was tie it. And that's a testament to the team. Mm-hmm. They did not just lay down. If the storm came, we're going to fight back. We're going to have a storm of our own.
So I'm going to raise the question to you.
Yeah.
What does this mean for the Ole Miss program? What does this mean for the women's basketball program to win a game like this?
There's no ceilings.
Damn, that's a good answer, everybody.
There's no ceiling.
He was ready. He read the scripts. You all don't understand. This is just like the NBA or the NFL.
It's scripted. I'm Patrick Mahomes right now.
Yeah.
There's no ceilings. I mean, literally the one thing that Ole Miss had trouble doing was closing out a big game against a big opponent of this magnitude. Well, they just did it. And in 3 hours time difference, 2 hour time difference, whatever, on the road, in a completely different place, different arena, a home crowd that big time favored the opposing team, and all odds against them at that point when Stanford had tied it up, and you think, oh, crap, we're going to go to overtime, and Stanford has all the momentum. No, they literally said, no, we're going to shatter this glass ceiling and create our own. And now the confidence this team has is when they go up against a team like an LSU or a South Carolina, one of those dominant powerhouses, they've already played the close games. They've already played the super tough, gone down to the wire, lost it at the end. It stinks, but you're now a heavyweight. You're now one of the heavyweights. You now have a seat at the table. You now belong. So now the team knows that not only do they belong, not only can they compete, we can win. We can win those games. And coach, credit to the coaching staff, credit to Coach Yo. She's told them this, like, you're capable of this. You're capable of this. Just keep believing. Keep chipping away. Keep chipping away. Keep chipping away. And you'll see what your hard work can do, how your hard work can pay off. And it has. It's paid remarkable dividends. And those battle scars may be the best thing for the team. Losing that close one to South Carolina at home, losing that close one at LSU. Some of those close losses, those tough games, those battle scars kind of prepare you for this. Like, no, we've experienced the loss. We've experienced the battle. We've experienced all this. We can come out on the other side now. We know what that's like. We can come out on the other side of that. Now they got a confidence about them. It's like, okay, cool. We've experienced the loss. Now we can experience the winning element of it. But there is no reason for the team to have any sort of doubt at all.
Well, they packed for Seattle. That's the running quote right now is they straight up packed to go to Seattle. They plan to get to the Sweet 16.
Yes, sir.
And you love hearing confidence and stuff like that. But I want to point out something that I think is very interesting that I don't think necessarily a ton of teams kind of have. Especially now, maybe as we get this tournament, you'll see some more that do. But when we look back at the Gonzaga game, we look at the players who really kind of had the biggest impacts. And when you think of this kind of thing, you generally go to one or two players on a team. And I think if you kind of were to say that about the Ole Miss women's team right now, you would look to Angel Baker and you would look to Madison Scott and you would be like, those are your two, stars. But that's not really kind of been the case so far in the tournament for Ole Miss. And you've seen the other players step up. And that's when things get super scary because you're not only having to deal with them, but now you have other players who have an insane amount of confidence that they can go out and make plays happen. Snudda Collins had one of the best second quarters in probably, NCAA, tournament history, or at least this tournament's history. I mean, going out there and making 3 3-pointers in the second quarter and just being able to continuously shoot the ball and space out the floor like that and putting pressure on, a couple of them coming in rhythm. It was really fun to watch. But then you're looking into the next game, you're like, okay, well, I'm expecting Snudda to kind of go out there and do it again. And she kind of struggles a little bit. She doesn't shoot as well. But that's okay because the rest of the team also picked it up a little bit. Marquita Davis had 12 points. Ayanna Thompson had 9 points. Angel had 13. Madison had 11. It's seeing these players able to do it. And it's not necessarily having to rely on one or two players to get it done. This is a team effort. This is a culture thing. Everyone's bought in. Anybody can score on the floor there.
Here's the age-old question, though, and I hate to do the what-if thing. What if this team had Shakira Austin right now?
No, we're not. Shakira's having a great career in the WNBA.
I know, but
we're not even going to worry about it.
We're not worried about it. But you have to entertain it. You have to entertain it. But look, here's the thing, though. The team doesn't have Shakira, and they're still winning these games.
So this is okay. This I was actually going to go into my next thing. Because we talked a little bit about this, and I asked the question, what does this mean for the program?
Yeah.
And I think we talked a little bit about the short-term, aspect of it to where they have the confidence. And one more thing I'm going to put on that. At this point, your seed does not matter.
No.
Seed I want to say this clearly. Your seed does not matter. It does not matter that you are playing Louisville, who is a 5 seed. It does not matter that you beat Stanford, who is a 1 seed at this point. You are Ole Miss. They're Louisville. You're good. They're good. You know you belong there. They know they belong here. It's going to be super fun to watch this game coming up. But the whole underdog, we don't belong mindset is gone. You've established yourself in this tournament. And you can go as far as you all want to go.
Yep.
But now getting back to what I was saying a little before is you brought up what if they had Shakira Austin? This team lost 60% of its scoring from last year. They brought in 9 new players.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that this team is improving upon what they did last year in itself
is crazy.
Is an absolute testament to the culture that Coach O has set, her staff's ability to go out and identify needs and to figure out where they can get better and bringing in the right players to do so. Mm-hmm. And you can point out a lot of different ways their defense is better this year. And they're doing things that I don't think last year's team could have done. Now, with all due respect, last year's team was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, they were good.
Yeah.
They're good.
But you're seeing Ole Miss kind of take that next step as a program. And I think it was something that this win definitely kind of expedited a little bit, but it was something I think that maybe the casual fan wouldn't have noticed. But this is kind of the part that we talk about with the sustainability, where Ole Miss had a very, very good player in Shakira Austin and very other good players on that roster as well. But their ability to kind of retool, reload, and then propel themselves forward this season, you're kind of seeing them take that next step. But now you're starting to see the point where, like, you know, if you always kind of talk about like that exponential equation, like it goes slowly, slowly, slowly. Now you're starting to see the point where it really starting to take off. And if there is ever a time that you need to invest in Ole Miss women's basketball, this is it.
Now.
Absolutely right now.
When you see the program, the ascension, you talked about that, and it's literally, you think of how quick the ascension is. I mean, it's mind-boggling to think that just a couple of seasons ago, they were 0-16 in conference play. From that to this, to knocking off a number 1 seed, and it wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a fluke that they beat Stanford. It wasn't a fluke. Like, Ole Miss went out there pound for pound, beat Stanford. Was better than Stanford. Objectively speaking, was better.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see that. I mean, Dawn Staley did incredible things with South Carolina. Kim Mulkey's doing great things with LSU.
I want to bring this up. I'm not going to play the comparison game because I
think
they're
me neither.
But I do want to bring this up. I think this is something that might genuinely shock people because of how good Dawn Staley has turned South Carolina as a program.
Yeah.
And again, Ole Miss, South Carolina, 2 very different programs when they took over, 2 very different jobs that needed to be done.
Yes.
But in a vacuum, and I say this in a vacuum, you look at what Coach Yo has done at Ole Miss. You look at what Dawn Staley has done at South Carolina in the first 5 years. You'd be surprised the bigger job. You'd be surprised who turned around what quicker.
Yeah.
And that's certainly no knock on Dawn Staley. Anybody knows that she's one of the best coaches in college basketball. But Ole Miss can be on that same path.
Yeah.
And it might be right now. They might ascend all the way up there to, the Elite Eight, to the Final Four. But you have to look at that and you need to see that, okay, where we are now, we don't want to leave this point. We don't want to plateau here. We want to push forward and go higher. And just kind of going back to who Coach O is and what you said earlier, my friend, this is no ceilings.
No ceilings, none. You've done it. Now keep doing it. Keep winning. And beating Stanford the way they did it on the road, number 1 seed, I mean, it's awesome. Now you made a great point. Now seeds do not matter. You've ousted the giant. You've beaten Goliath. Mm-hmm. Now go win every other battle. You belong. You have a seat at the table. Go win. Go conquer that table. But like you're 100% right, is that, the ascension, the path that they're on, they've already shattered the glass ceiling at this point and gotten to a point where they haven't been as a program since 2007.
This is the first time they won 20 games back to back since I think like the early 90s or the mid 90s maybe.
And
before I was born.
Before I was born too. But there's nothing holding them back. Nothing. Literally nothing. Mm-hmm. And how many times have you been able to say that about an Ole Miss women's basketball team? You couldn't even say that last year. Certainly not the year before. But, I mean, even before Coach Hill, you couldn't say that. The program was dead. Mm-hmm. You went from being a dead program, I mean, just kind of floating in the water, dead, to now you're the one dominating the water slides and calling the shots. Like, I mean, I'm kind of at a loss for words at what Coach Yo has done for the program. I'm kind of at a loss for words at the level of success that they've achieved because it's so remarkable when you put it in perspective, when you think about it. You mentioned Dawn Staley's ascension. You're seeing what Kim Mulkey's doing at LSU, and I'm not comparing any of the coaches and all, but like those programs are 2 completely different programs. I mean, what Coach Yo inherited was bad, was disastrous. It was like post-Hurricane Katrina, what she inherited of a program. Mm-hmm. And she's turned it into a mecca. And she's turned it into a respectable, competitive, winning program. And they're not excited to be in the NCAA tournament. They expect to be in the NCAA tournament. We're talking about the men's basketball team the past few podcasts, and with Chris Beard, we're just hoping that Ole Miss gets to the tournament next year, men's ball. Mm-hmm. Well, the expectation with women is that let's get to the Sweet 16 again. Let's get to the Elite Eight. Let's get to the Final Four. Let's go win the whole thing. I mean, there's a confidence amongst fan spheres. Like This team can do it. They can. Will they? Maybe not, but they can.
I think we're at a point where we have to understand, and I think this was kind of the wake-up call to Ole Miss women's basketball that was needed.
Yeah.
Because it's very, if you look at the season, a lot of the highest attended games was when Ole Miss played top opponents. I think they kind of sat around the 3,000s in attendance, which is good, which is a step in the right direction. But when they played South Carolina, it bumped up to 6.
Yeah.
But now you have to make that the standard for what it is. If you want to continue to build up like that, there needs to be kind of an agreement between everybody. There needs to be an agreement. There needs to be this sort of kind of trust or desire to kind of to be the best that it can. And it can't just come from the program. This has got to start. It starts with Coach O. It starts with her team. And she's got to get them energized. She's got to continue to set that culture and continue to build upon. And they're going to keep doing that in this tournament run. And then it's got to come from the athletics department side. They have to put the resources and time into this program to make it as best as possible. You saw what happened with South Carolina, and you see where they're at and the things that they just by putting the money and the time and the effort into this program.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to see it from the fan side too. Players love playing games in front of packed out crowds. Adding that atmosphere at home, it changes everything. And you could tell during the Stanford game as the game went on. You could see it on social media, the more interactions that people were having, the talk about the game. It was something that I haven't seen for the women's basketball team this year. If you can get all three of those, that trinity, and get it to work together, there really is no ceilings on what this program can accomplish. And this is going to be my,
your soapbox,
my shameless plug. And I've tweeted out a couple times. I've posted different places. We wrote an article about this very thing, and it came out almost a week ago, before the Gonzaga game. And it's rebuilding the Rebels. After resurrecting Ole Miss women's basketball, Coach O's has the Rebs in position for even more. We're going to post it again. Take the time, go read it, go really kind of dive into what's happened into this program over the past couple of years and see where they were, where they are now, and where they really can be.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic group effort from myself, Evelyn, and I believe Steve is on it as well. Take the time to go read it. It is really something. It is something we're very proud to get out there. But to bring it up back to a high thing real quick, because I know we talked a lot about the future there. The future can be now. They play Louisville and Seattle. And we know Louisville just came off of a very impressive win over Texas. Absolutely thumped them. And I think in a lot of ways, this season Louisville's kind of been in a similar spot as Ole Miss. They've lost some games that they could have won, and they're kind of looking to prove themselves over again. It's going to be a lot of fun for the rest of this tournament, man.
That game is going to be a slugfest. Slugfest, because both teams still feel like they have something to prove. And both teams are still looking to accomplish something that neither one of them has really accomplished of late.
Mm-hmm.
And, Louisville's good. They're good. Mm-hmm. And they've lost, but they're capable of losing. And they have lost on the season. But when they're on, they're on. And they're capable of winning and winning big. I mean, you saw what they just did to a Vic Schaefer team. Vic Schaefer teams don't get blown out of the water like that.
Mm-hmm. On their home court.
Yeah, on their home court. That doesn't happen. You don't see that. So Ole Miss better be prepared to fight. And they will. I think they will. I don't have any doubt in my mind. I mean, I'm never –
I don't think there's a doubt in my mind. Minus the South Carolina game in the tournament.
Yeah.
I think it's been since the Tennessee game, since the Tennessee loss.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the pivotal turning point where this team really started to take control of games.
Yeah.
And they didn't win every game after that. But that's when you saw this team really take the next step. And it starts with their defense. We defend. I mean, this is a team that's in the 90-something percentile on defense. They're going to go out there and they're going to do their best to dictate this game start to finish.
They need to get up early and just defend like crazy and make it be Louisville's game to lose.
Put pressure, force turnovers, do what you do well, get out in transition, and rebound. That's who you are. You do that, you're going to win a lot of games.
Yep.
In this tournament. I think we're getting about there. I think this has been a pretty solid 30-minute episode here, Caleb.
Here for it.
Yeah. So go ahead and tell the people where they can find you.
All right, you see my Twitter handle below, Caleb Salers ST. Find me online at supertalk.fm. We keep up with all the latest news, sports, and politics around the Magnolia State. I cover it all, covering the legislative session from corner to corner of Mississippi. Supertalk.fm.
And as for me, I'm TJ, and you can find me at TJ Oxley 1 with the Rebel Walk. As always, the Rebel Walk bringing you everything that is Ole Miss. Any sport, anytime, any topic, we're there giving you the best coverage, whether it be baseball, basketball, football, soccer, or anything else that you can think of. Give us a follow on Twitter at the Rebel Walk. Give me a follow at TJ Oxley 1. Give Caleb a follow at Caleb Salers ST. Until next time, buddy.
God bless you.
Have a good one, y'all.